few words. The practice that we're engaging with this evening is mindfulness of breathing. And I've given it a little subtitle, Gateway to Freedom, ? So this week's class is the penultimate class in a series that we've been running, partly on Zoom, and then we've kind of migrated onto YouTube. And the series is called Breaking Free. The Key is Your Mind. And we've put these classes together as a response to the lockdown experience. I think certainly in the early weeks, and probably even now, it's been experienced as a kind of imprisonment. Certainly our horizons have been drastically reduced as we've been forced by circumstance to cooperate with this lockdown. Some of us have found that we've got a lot more time on our hands, whilst others have found that suddenly their home life and their working life have become sort of squidged together. So how can we adapt to these changing circumstances? Many people have turned towards meditation. I know that because many people have been coming to Cambridge Buddhist Centre and to other Buddhist centres that I know about. And we really want to support and encourage and kind of inform, teach, if you like, as much as we can about the benefits of meditation in the situation we find ourselves in. And in the previous weeks, Artist Siddhi has, he's really emphasised, I think, the importance of interest, cultivating interest in meditation. We have to find the motivation to meditate. Certainly after the first flush of enthusiasm, we need to renew our motivation. And that actually is a really key aspect of the practice. And he's also emphasized the importance of unifying and integrating the mind in meditation, and how to apply effective effort by identifying your resolve in meditation. But ultimately, what is really important is to do what you're doing tonight, which is quite simply to turn up for the practice consistently and regularly. It's really helpful to find a community, to find a context to meditate in, because we do need support and encouragement. It's a simple practice, but it needs constant sort of recalibrating. So tonight, I'm going to talk about how I develop interest in meditation, specifically in the mindfulness of breathing. So breaking free, the key is your mind. So that in a way raises the question, what is the mind? I thought I would just pique your interest by asking that question. What is the mind? We often talk about working with the mind to transform our experience, to change our lives. But what does that really involve? What is the mind? Does it have substance? And if it doesn't have substance, how can we work with it? So, in the mindfulness of breathing, we are exploring the mind in the context of awareness and the body and the breath. So, we're exploring what it is to have a mind, to have a body, and to be aware. So, one way I think that is very, very helpful to think about the mind is a traditional way of perceiving, or conceiving of the mind in Buddhism, which is that the mind is a sense organ. So we've got, in Buddhist thinking, we've got not just five senses, we've got six. So the skin is the organ of touch, the mouth is the organ of taste, the nose is the organ of smell, the eyes of sight, and the ears of sound. And the mind is the organ which responds to the sensory input of thoughts, emotions, energies, psychological events. So the mind is the organ of the perceptual situation. So I think the fact that if we think of the mind as a sense organ, then we are really placing it right there in the body with all the other organs of sense. The mind is deeply connected, implicated in the body. And that's what we are exploring in the mindfulness of breathing. And we think that we know what the body is, don't we? That does have substance. That is a concrete thing, and we have at least some control over it. So we think we're quite confident that we know and understand the body, but actually, the Buddha is encouraging, when he's encouraging us to do this practice, one of the things that he's encouraging us to realize is that our knowledge of the body is actually quite limited, and it's limited by the fact that we conceptualize it without quite realizing it. So we've got this kind of quite narrow, sort of congealed, if you like, relationship to our body. We just take it for granted. There's a saying, isn't there, that familiarity breeds contempt. And in a funny kind of a way, sometimes I think we do. We take our bodies for granted, and in some ways we curse them whenever they cause us pain or they don't kind of live up to the expectations that we might have of them. So, in this practice, a very useful consequence of this practice can be that we become a much more alive to the fact of the body. We can sort of break the crust, if you like, of this conceptualization, this congealed, limited awareness. And the breath is very, very helpful. The breath becomes an agent, if you like, of awareness of the body. Yeah. So we begin the practice by cultivating this mindfulness of the body. Actually preparatory to cultivating mindfulness of the breath, we cultivate mindfulness of the body. Another sort of traditional way of thinking of it is that we suffuse the body with awareness. So it's like the body becomes a sponge and we soak it in awareness. And we do that by just quite methodically taking our awareness to every single part of the body and just noticing what we experience there. And the breath is the agent in this exploration as well, because the breath reaches every part of the body. And the breath is what animates the body. So it kind of comes in, it fills the lungs, the oxygen jumps from the air in the lungs onto the blood cells, and then it's transported through the body. And that is what keeps you alive and ticking, and that keeps your sense of touch happening. It's what all sensations are sort of arise in dependence upon you breathing. So the breath also then can sort of become a sort of agent of awareness. So we rest our awareness on the breath and allow the awareness to suffuse the body with this awareness of the breath, with the action of the breath. So we'll do a period of meditation in a couple of minutes, and I'll begin with a bit of a body scan first, and then I'll lead us through the mindfulness of breathing with this kind of approach sort of highlighted. And when we are engaging in the body scan, the first part of the meditation, what we're aiming to do is to come into a sort of a direct relationship with the body. So see if you can notice the difference between an idea of, for example, your foot or your knee or your back, your spine, the idea, the concept, and then the actual experience that you're having in the moment, which is just quite raw sort of sensory data. So I think that this is actually quite a key, if you like, skill in meditation, and you can develop it over time. You might find that when you start to do this, you don't really experience very much. It can feel quite dull, or you can sort of not really feel it. But if that is the case, then I would recommend that you take an interest in the subtleties of your experience. Attune yourself to the sensations rather than the idea of the sensations, and see if you can come into an awareness of the difference between those two things. What happens or arises in consequence of that is the possibility of an absorption and concentration and a sort of a connection to the breath, which is flowing and vivid. And it's sort of leavens this congealed, um, over conceptualized relationship that we have with the body. You start to realize that mind, it's not so easy to sort of really identify where mind begins and body ends. And that's what we're exploring. And this is, to go back to my title, is this a gateway to freedom? How could this be a gateway to freedom? Well, I think by breaking this crust, I hope that makes sense, you are liberating the mind, and you are coming into a much deeper and more satisfying relationship with your own experience. It can be very pleasurable. Um, and you're setting yourself up then for exploring your experience in a creative way, rather than being sort of pushed and pulled by ideas and thoughts and stories and narratives. You can drop underneath that into a flowing, concentrated, absorbed state. So, well, let's give it a try anyway. Let's set ourselves up for meditation. So, finding your seat. Yes, and maybe beginning just by noticing all of those physical senses in the body. So, we could begin with the sensations of touch. So, just noticing where your body, your skin is in contact with the seat, the ground, just noticing those sensations of touch. So we can so easily just take that for granted, but what does it actually feel like to be in contact with the ground, skin, in touch with the ground? Maybe you can notice the sensations of contact of clothing. Parts of the body in contact with other parts of the body. Seeing if you can just notice those sensations. And then perhaps exploring sensations of taste and smell. Tend to be the least significant in this kind of activity, but there may be some residue of taste in your mouth. Possibly you can smell. It's had rain today, so that has an impact on the smell of your environment. And noticing the light, the colours, the forms, the shapes coming into your eyes. Quite a good exercise is to stop seeing things, for example, computer, chair, flip chart, Liz, and just sort of notice the texture, the form. Try to let go of the labels. Just appreciate a sort of a simpler level of perception. And then closing the eyes. When we close the eyes, there may be some persistence of vision, but then we become aware of sounds. They come to the fore. So again, seeing if you can just relax that habit of immediately labeling a sound. Seeing if you can just be more interested in the quality, whether it's a continuous sound, whether it's deep or high-pitched, rhythmic. Cultivating the habit of deconceptualizing, unlabeling, and then turning your attention to the body. Again, to the sensations of touch. This time, choosing to take your awareness quite a methodical way through the whole body, perhaps starting with the feet. I say feet. How do I actually know that I've got feet? Sensations of weight, temperature, contact, contact with the floor. What are the experiences, the direct sensory experiences? There may be some tingling, awareness of temperature, just taking my awareness there, then moving up through the ankles, legs, the knees, the thigh bones, and the pelvis. So noticing that you can take your attention to a very small area and also broaden your attention to take in a larger area. So there's the sensations of toes and the sensations of the whole lower half of the body and everything in between. And is there a response from the body to this exercise of bringing your awareness to it. Does your experience of the body change as you bring your awareness to it? It can be very helpful to encourage the muscles to soften and relax. So there's a feeling of an alive, relaxedness in the lower half of the body. Just letting it be solid, stable. And then taking your attention to the spine, letting the shoulders drop a little, perhaps feeling the shoulder blades, letting them slide down the back. Elbows dropping down like pendulums. Noticing the chest as the shoulders and the elbows drop. The chest can emerge open. You become aware of the movement of the ribs. Perhaps noticing the action of the diaphragm, the muscle at the base of the rib cage that drops down as you breathe in and pushes up as you breathe out. Can you sense that? Can you feel that? Lengthening and loosening the back of the neck. The face tips a little towards the floor and the chin tucks under. And you could take some time to explore the sensations of the face. Just every time your awareness reaches a particular place, it softens and relaxes. Noticing the inside of the mouth, tongue, teeth. And entering into the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing. Just noticing the end of the out breath. How does that inhabit the body? Where in the body do you feel that? Just noticing if you're anticipating the end of the out breath, seeing if you can let go of that and just be with the experience. Then, when you're ready in the second stage, noticing the beginning of the in-breath. So again, just seeing if you can be aware of the sensations of the breath. Where in the body is it felt? Being interested in the quality of the breath. Is it soft and smooth? Does it come easily? Is there a catch? Not seeking to change it, just bringing as much awareness as you can. Just noticing if your mind spins off with stories, ideas, completely natural. And it's not wrong, but we're choosing just now not to get tangled up. Just to be with the simple, bare sensations of the breath. And in the third stage, when you're ready, you can just relax the effort a little Just rest on the breath. Noticing how it comes in and out of the body like a wave. Seeing if you can really notice how it inhabits the body, the sensations. Softening and suffusing. And in the final stage, taking your awareness to the place in the body where the breath first comes in. Cool spot around the nose, the mouth. Noticing what happens when you focus your attention on this particular place on the body. Very subtle sensations, tracing the path of the cool air in your experience. The only effort you need to make is to just stay with the bare sensations of the breath. Body can be completely relaxed, soft. as we come to the end of the meditation, just spending a moment or so relaxing all effort, just letting go of the object of the meditation, perhaps becoming aware of the sounds around you, the ground beneath you, the walls, the windows. Just sitting, doing nothing for a couple of moments. And then, as I ring the bell, opening your eyes and coming out of the meditation posture. So that's it. We've got a few minutes, just in case anybody would like to ask a question or share a reflection, make some kind of a comment on the experience that you just had. Maybe not. Well, I hope that you got a sense of the possibilities of exploring what we often call the direct experience of the body. And how this is, well, in my experience anyway, it's an important, helpful way for me to become absorbed and connected to the flow of the breath. And what I also experience is, that it becomes very pleasurable. That the sense there are lots of pleasurable sensations in the body that quite often I'm just completely screening out. And becoming aware of those is a very good way of being able to sort of sit for longer in a more absorbed state. Did anybody experience anything like that? Pleasure in the meditation? Or was it just unbearably painful? Um,
A little
oh,
thing, can I
yes,
say?
please do.
Well, I was just thinking about it being interesting that, we talk about breaking free, the key is your mind, but it's not like your mind in your head, is it? It's like, it's more through the body, through direct experience, through body sensation, that you experience your mind in a different way.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. It does make sense. I think so. Liz was. I don't know if people could hear what Liz said, but Liz was saying that we talk about. Could you say it again?
Well, it's sort of breaking free, the key is your mind, but that makes you think that you're going to think your way through meditation or through doing things differently, whereas it's kind of like the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for many people, actually, including me, in the first couple of years or so of my practice, I did identify the mind with the head, very much so. I'm quite a sort of, I used to be a university teacher, so I had a lot of confidence in my brain, and I identified that as being, where the mind is. But actually, the mind inhabits the whole body, and that is what we are aiming to sort of liberate. So, in a way, the fact that, particularly, I think Western people identify the head as being the place where the mind is, that is part of the conceptualization that we're seeking to dismantle. Having said that, I think I also trained as an actress, and when I was at drama school, we did Alexander Technique, and I noticed when I was doing Alexander Technique that emotions were stored in the different parts of my body that I could release through the Alexander Technique. And I think that has really stood me in good stead in meditation as well, because that happens sometimes in meditation, that you become aware of an emotion that's kind of trapped in the body somewhere. And simply by coming into relationship with it, into awareness of it, it can soften and release and be resolved in some way. So that's the kind of thing that I'm seeking to encourage you to explore. Yeah, great question, Liz. Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, that might be it then. I will just mention a couple of things before we go. One thing that I will mention is that on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, we have a course starting. It's called A Creative Response in Uncertain Times. And it's a meditation and Buddhism course. I believe it's 5 weeks. It's led by Dharmanata, who sometimes is here on a Thursday night. And you can book onto that course. It's free. We would appreciate a donation, but you can also sign up completely for free. And that will give you a real solid basis in Buddhist meditation and exploring ways in which Buddhist teachings can inspire us to respond creatively to the situation we find ourselves in. We also have meditations on Saturday and Monday mornings between 8 and 9. So I'll be leading those meditations on Saturday and Monday. Do come along, you're very welcome. And they start at 8. And if you want to come, you can go to the website and find the Zoom link on our website, which is cambridgebuddhistcentre.com. Yes, and If you've enjoyed the class this evening, if you want to help us to make this available to as many people as possible, do think about making a donation. We recommend that for a class like this, you make a donation of between £3 to £5. But if you're coming more regularly to Cambridge Buddhist Centre, perhaps you could think about taking out a standing order. That would be really, really helpful for us. It helps us to plan our finances. And we are now about to move into a phase where we start to develop and plan our programming for the autumn and the year ahead. And we would really appreciate your support in helping us to do that. Financial support would be very much appreciated. So I think that's everything I've got to say. Thank you so much for coming. And hopefully see you next week. Oh, I have to press the button. There we go.